Welcome to the Post-Capitalist Workplace Podcast, hosted by Anuradha Kowtha, a leading accessibility strategist supporting organizations of today to become organizations of the future. In Season 1, we'll explore what accessibility truly means at its core, as well as the crucial role it plays in decolonizing organizations. While Season 2 spotlights real-world examples of impactful accessibility initiatives and why they're key to addressing some of society's biggest challenges. Hi, everyone. This is Anuradha. I'm excited to start this new podcast today. I wanted to keep this really short and sweet and just share a little bit about what we're going to be up to this first season of this podcast. So first of all, I've wanted to do this for a long time. In fact, I've had the idea for a long time, but it's taken me 10 months from the idea of the podcast, this iteration of the podcast anyway, to actually picking up the mic and recording today. I think it's really important that we address the multi-crisis we have going on right now. As you may have been seeing, the devastation with hurricanes, flooding, food shortages, displaced people, and so on. The situation is quite dire, and it's time that I took this opportunity and share some of my thoughts, the practical and the nitty-gritty that we need to do now so we can be prepared for the future. We have to understand what underpins this current moment. We didn't get here in a vacuum. This didn't just happen overnight. This has been several hundred years in the making from the capitalistic and colonial indoctrination and systems that we live in. And it's really important that we work together to get free. Before this moment, I've been a guest on several podcasts. I have been a guest speaker. I have taught my own class called Sowing Post-Capitalist Seeds, which I co-founded. And I have taught hundreds, if not thousands, of students as a teacher in adult education and to middle and high school students. And I think it's time that I shared the messages that I've gleaned from that work with you here. 3 things that I want to share with you that are most important. I've done this before, as I said, in smaller scale. And the things that I think I most want to convey to you all is the systems aren't broken. These systems are working as designed. They are built on certain types of people's stories and voices being heard above others. It is systemic power imbalance that has been propagated through media, through institutions, and so on. And yet another world is possible. And we can't hope that someone's going to come in and rescue us and do it for us. We actually have to dig in and do it for ourselves. A big component of my work here is co-creation. That while it's nice sometimes to be told what to do and how to do it, and we definitely need experts and so on, we also more than ever need to be co-involved in the building of it, because we all have precious lived experience and other skills and knowledge that we can bring to the table. And if we don't have it, we need to make way for those who do have that experience and uplift and uphold what they're sharing and chip in our expertise in other ways, because there's always going to be a way to contribute. If we're all going to live together, we all need to contribute together. And the last point is my work is first and foremost about culture change. It's holding that space for significant transformation of organizations and individuals. Sometimes that change starts with sparks of clarity, understanding, seeing what is what, and naming those things, but quickly shifts into being a catalyst for change, meaning my presence is like a catalyst to show what things to prioritize, what to focus on, and where to take action that's going to have the biggest impact. As I said, this indoctrination is at the heart of a lot of this work. We've been indoctrinated to absorb the models of capitalism and colonialism and how they show up. Things that you might not be thinking that are part of that indoctrination, that it might be things like working 40 hours, that is the norm and that's what's expected, that there's a class system, that people who are doing quote unquote unskilled labor deserve to be paid less. Homeless people got where they are because of their own choices. That feminized labor, meaning not work generally done by women, but women, gender minorities, but not always those kinds of people, but that care work in general is undervalued, yet underpins so much of the backbone of how capitalist structures keep working. That disabled people are scroungers and that they have made poor choices and they are deserving of what they have. That mentally ill people are crazy or not to be trusted in some way. That queer and trans and intersex people, especially queer, trans, and intersex people of color, QTIPOC is what I'll be using going forward, are harmful. And the truth of that all is, all of those individuals deserve to have a good life, deserve to thrive under capitalism. And most of the time, they're just trying to get by in a system that is persecuting them. So how can we shift those gears? Because we often don't see those types of people in our workplaces. They are underemployed or unemployed. They are living on the margins of society, often making well below the minimum wage. And they are, like I said, they're trying to survive, yet they have so much lived experience that can really aid us in what comes next if we take their leadership to heart. So, what do I bring to this conversation that's so unique? As I mentioned before, I have decades of experience as a teacher, as a facilitator, as a curriculum designer, as someone who's worked in and out of many different types of organizations and workplaces. I've owned this business as a consultant for 12 years. But there's so many other things that make me richly qualified. So I have decades of experience, not only as these things are my lived experience. I am neurodivergent, queer, have mental health struggles, and am disabled. So I bring those lenses of lived experience, but I also have extensive experience in working on the ground with different types of people in a number of workplaces. And I have training on how to work with these individuals. My work is often defined as being a catalyst for change, getting people into action. So implementing even imperfectly. There's a lot of people who would stand at the precipice we are on right now and look at it and say, there's not much that can be done. Let's just go with the status quo. And yet they want to do something different. They know that there's something different. And they might be tired. They might be scared. I don't know how you're feeling. But what I do know is us staying here and allowing the status quo is not a real choice. The real choice is imperfect action, us to learn and share with each other and build action for something new. The last piece is I help spark conversation across difference, that a lot of relationships are built on this transactional approach. And under capitalism, that means our workplace relationships, how we treat our employees and staff, how we exploit our customers, how we might allow ourselves as founders to become totally overgiving and exploit ourselves. There are so many ways we exploit and are exploited upon. And this transactional attitude of how we view ourselves as labor, as we measure our worth in our paycheck or the bottom line. We are looking for value through our productivity and how much we have gotten done. These are all false perspectives, indoctrination that we don't need to keep. Instead, a lot of my work centers on bringing a different type of conversation that focuses on gentility, on joy, on boldness, on innovation, and ultimately leading to liberation. And that doesn't happen with one person by themselves. This happens in conversation and where we start to rehumanize ourselves and each other in these systems. And we shift the conversation from a transactional output based model to a relational one where we see our foibles, where we embrace our strengths, and where we come together to create something new together. And that happens through that process of co-creation. Before I wrap up for today, I wanted to give you a preview of what's coming next. In episode 2, I can't believe I have to talk about this, but I think it's a really good starting place of what is accessibility and why do we need to focus on it now? AKA, why does it matter? And that question is so deep and vast. And a lot of people mistakenly believe that accessibility is about ramps and closed captioning and then we're done. But this encompasses more than that. And I hope that if you've listened to this episode, you can see some of the ways in that I might be taking us down of what is accessibility. The third episode will be focusing on the real state of accessibility. What does the workplace really look like? Specifically here in the UK or in the US, but worldwide, what does the workplace really look like? What are the barriers? A lot of people think it can't be that bad, but it's bad. And we're going to go there. I'm going to paint in vivid detail what the workplace looks like in episode 3 and how it intentionally excludes certain types of workers and the benefits they bring to the workplace. How just someone coming into the front door of their workplace is not the biggest barrier. It's even getting to that point that is, in fact, the bigger barriers. The fourth episode is going to focus on something very different. We're going to be painting a picture of what the post-capitalist workplace could be. What could it really look like? Because we think if we just put in a few changes, then we're here, we're okay. But I'm going to show how the change that we might do on the ground in our workplaces can bring in something different and can be part of the instruments that help us dismantle the current systems of oppression of capitalism and cis heteropatriarchy and capitalism. That resistance of looking at capitalism actually changes the status quo of what we've accepted and gives us a place to rehumanize and reimagine what our world can look like. So I'll see you back here for episode 2. And thanks so much for joining in. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Let's connect and continue the discussion on our website.